me the great wisdom that was passed around at their table? Come
I
on,
have
you
a
guys.
question. I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so my mother is a phlegmatic, totally, completely.
Your mother is a total phlegmatic.
Absolutely. I don't know if she's a sanguine phlegmatic or a melancholic phlegmatic. Because Mom's taken antidepressants since she was in her 30s. And I don't know if that has, I know it won't change her, but I don't see her, like she's admitted, like my emotions it tempers all of your emotions. You know, it tempers, like you don't have the big highs and the low lows. So how do
antidepressants will be an artificial tempering of whatever the temperament is, right? But I suspect there are little clues somewhere if you now, after this, have your eyes open a little more and just start sniffing around and watching and observing a little more and see what you see.
Yeah.
In the big scheme of eternity, it doesn't matter.
No.
Right. But it is interesting, and if she is a sanguine who's been depressed all her life, ask God to give you some insight, because then maybe you can give her a little more of what she always wanted.
Right.
Or if she's a sensitive melancholy, you already know. You guys are learning what are the deepest needs of the sanguine. Affection and attention. What are the deepest needs of the opposite melancholy? Space and understanding. Don't put them at the center of attention unless they so choose. What's the deepest needs of the choleric? Appreciation for all their hard work and loyalty. And what are the deepest needs of the phlegmatic? Respect and peace. Don't judge them for what they do or don't do or how they look or how they perform. They're not about performance. They're about loving and supporting. And they just want peace. Give it to them. Oh my God, one of the biggest fights I had with my husband. Okay, I teach this stuff. I write books that have not been published yet. No, I've written other temperament books. Well, my husband is a melancholy phlegmatic, and when he's agitated, he needs space and silence and respect and peace to go process it, right? He'll come back out when he's ready. But damn it, I wanted to win. And I wanted to make my point as a choleric. And I chased him I followed him through the house. And he was walking away from me as fast as he could. And when we got to the bedroom door, he shut the door in my face. I said, "Don't you shut the door in my face." And I opened up the door. And my man came out. And he rose up like this. And he came right at me. "I need space and silence." And I was like, and yet that is a beautiful moment in our relationship as I look back properly with humility and understanding of the male and the female and of the temperaments. He had it up to here with my choleric, and I wasn't giving him what he needed. And thank God I have the maturity and the grace to have heard it at least and then backed off. Okay, may I call them? So, I'm sure you each have your own stories. Talk to me. I've been talking all day. Somebody tell me what you talked about at your table. Anything that was interesting or fun or unusual?
I was thinking about
God!
trying to forget about temperament, like my oldest daughter, like I was telling him to tell you off my heartbeat, and that is so not me. So I'll think, who raised that child? Like how could she act that way?
I got one like that too.
Okay, good. She said that her daughter will tell somebody off like this, and she goes, "So that's not me. Who raised this child?"
I got one like that too.
Okay, good. God gave you that child.
I got 3 like that.
Okay, so hopefully this will take a burden off of your maternal shoulders, that a lot of this stuff is none of your own doing and none of your control. All you need to do is understand, and when you can, give them what they need appropriately. And pray a lot, absolutely. And
send
step
their
back.
guardian angel to them.
I'm sorry?
I send the guardian angel to them.
Oh, God,
Mary.
guardian angels, they are our
Amazing.
salvation, aren't they? I know, I send mine to the boys all the time. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's dive into the rest of our material, and then we're gonna break around 3. And where is confession going to be?
We're not exactly certain of that. We were thinking initially at the church, but Father was sounding like it might be, Father Bond will come here, and I lost Father, so I'll find out.
Maybe in the rooms here?
I was thinking in these 2 rooms right here.
Okay,
would be
perfect.
plenty of privacy, without having to make us move. I'll check with him.
Okay, so toward the end, Tina will let us know what's happening with confession, and then we'll end about 3, and then we'll have time for confessions, or just lingering, relaxing, talking some more. Anybody who's gonna stay for confession, that's great, and then we go over to the 4:30 Vigil Mass. And then I go home to California. Okay, onward and upward. We have work to do. Wait. Does anybody know what picture this movie is from? I'm an old movie buff. Who's the actress on the right? She was Melanie in Gone with the Wind.
Oh,
No,
Olivia de Havilland.
Olivia de Havilland. In this movie is called The Snake Pit. And she's trapped in an insane asylum. It's a pretty intense movie, but very beautifully done. Anyway, I thought maybe somebody would get the little hint that some of our families are like being in an insane asylum.
Some, a lot of.
Exactly. Okay. So your head has been filled with a lot of deep, important information. What is the plan now? What do you do with all this stuff? Number 1, be curious. Continue to be curious about this. It's not just nothing. It is important, and it will help you in all your relationships. Look for clues. Look for the talking, the slow walking, the fast walking, the pounding of fists and the pointing of fingers and the animated. Remember, now everybody can do that, remember? Everybody does that, but some people just do it without thinking. And it's automatic to them. Listen for the words. When you see a phlegmatic, and you know they're overwhelmed, this is my magic word, I go, are you overwhelmed? Yes! They love that, because that is how they are feeling, and sometimes they don't know how to voice it, or are afraid to voice it. So help them out there. Are you feeling unloved? Is nobody paying attention to you? Are you overwhelmed? Is nobody appreciating your hard work? Is nobody understanding how deep and thoughtful you are? Just ask. That's what Jesus did a lot of times. He didn't really instruct all the time. He sometimes just asked questions. Watch their face. If the eyes light up, that's an invitation to come closer. If the eyes are dull or not looking right at you, there's an introvert that is not safe or sure or uncomfortable. So help that person become comfortable in any way you can. Ask questions. Number 2, speak their language. How can a choleric speak a phlegmatic language? What would a choleric say, and how would they say it? Does anybody want to give me an example of how a choleric should speak to a phlegmatic?
Suck it up and get it over with.
are both in, unless the phlegmatic has been dragging their feet, making excuses, then you don't tolerate it anymore. There is a time for intolerance. And intolerance is a virtue sometimes. We do not tolerate sin. God doesn't tolerate sin. We do not tolerate disrespect. We do not tolerate deception. We do not tolerate selfishness. Right? So intolerance is a virtue and a strength. Our culture's been made to believe that we should tolerate everything in the guise of being nice and loving. BS. That's not true. And as Catholics, we have the truth and the fullness of truth. And we need to proclaim it appropriately where we can. Be strong. Be brave. So how do you speak language to an introvert? Tone it down, cholerics and sanguines. Tone it down. Give them space and time. Don't be too silly. Oh man. I once dated this guy. He was so handsome. He was rich. He was Catholic. And he was very melancholy. Ooh. And I know how to be melancholy. And he was the head of a hotel in our area, but there were always big parties at these hotels, a lot of VIPs, and so I'd have to wear my St. John knits and look real glamorous and be on his arm. And he was a choleric, I was a choleric, so we would work the room together. And we had a great time, except on New Year's Eve, when his two little boys came to be at this big party. I love kids, sanguine, right? So my melancholy mask went down a little bit. So here I am in my very sparkly St. John suit and with these big high heels. It's New Year's Eve, everything, and these little boys are in their tuxedos, and we're playing Ninja Turtles or something. It was way back in the day, right? And I was going, yeah, Michelangelo, and I went down like this, and went, yeah. Sanguines don't have natural poise. We have to work at it. So he turned around and looked at me in my very elegant thing, and there were some other adults. They didn't really see me, but I was like, yeah. I saw the look on his face, and it was so disgusted and disappointed. And he cooled to me after that and broke up with me right after that.
He's no fun.
No, he was fun, but I don't blame him. He didn't want a sanguine for a girlfriend. He wasn't interested in a sanguine, and that's his choice, and I understand it. And I had the fake melancholy thing going on. Not fake, but I can be classy when I have to. But the real me came out, and he didn't like it. So that just happens. Don't be too silly. Ask kindly. Don't issue orders. And don't demand. The other extrovert, which is the sanguine, we don't really bark orders, but we go, oh, I want that. I want that. Can I have that? Give me that. So we can be too demanding, even though we're not barking orders. How do you speak to an extrovert? All you introverts. Get to the point.
Yeah.
Please, speak up. We can't hear you. We want to hear you. Don't withhold. Don't withhold. Please laugh at our jokes. We know you want to. And show affection appropriately. Please don't withhold affection because we're not perfect. Number 3, take other people's pulse. What's going on with the person sitting next to you? What's going on with the person in your family or at the office? What do they need? If you can say, you know what, I know my friend is a phlegmatic. She doesn't want to be overwhelmed. She wants respect. She wants sensitivity. And I've pretty much been ignoring her and talking down to her, and I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna give her what she needs. Check for distress. All 4 temperaments can be distressed. And we get distressed when we don't get our what? Our emotional needs met. Yes, our way, but our emotional needs are not being met. That's why please memorize those 4 emotional needs. That's your little go-to thing in your pocket. If you're not sure what somebody needs, please ask. What do you need right now? What can I get for you? And I've had so many beautiful women this whole time I've been here said, is there anything I can get for you? Do you need anything? I love that. I didn't have to bark an order or ask. They were there quietly when I needed it. That is such a beautiful thing. Can you help the person? Sometimes a person is in distress. Can you really help them? And do you need to help them? Sometimes we take on responsibility that's not ours. We're helpers, we're fixers, we're lovers, we're savers, we're nurturers. Sometimes you can't help somebody. It's an issue they have to work out on their own. Just be there. Just quietly be there. Just love them. It may not be your responsibility. Raise your hand if you have ever taken on responsibility that you later realized was not your responsibility to take on. It is all of us. It is all of us. Keep being aware of that. And take your own pulse. As a divorced Catholic woman trying to live a chaste life, not having really any human touch, and one of my main emotional needs is affection and touching, I realized instead of falling into self-pity, I would go get manicures and pedicures. And that it wasn't frivolous, like some people say. I needed it. I needed another woman to hold my hands and give me a manicure and rub my feet. It was beautiful and healing and loving. So take your own pulse. What are your emotional needs? And if nobody is there to meet them or fill them, find healthy ways to do it yourself so you don't fall into self-pity. Check for signs of distress in yourself. What are the signs of distress in introverts? When introverts are under distress, what happens? They get quieter. They take naps. They disappear. Check for distress in yourself and others. If you're not sure, pray. Always pray, pray, pray. Ask God to give you the wisdom. Can the need be met? Maybe you have an emotional need and you can't meet it. And now you have a cross. And now you can unite that cross with our Lord's and have grace come out of that. That's when you say to yourself, suck it up, baby. Sometimes, no, you can't meet the need. Accept the cross and avoid self-pity. Next one, take a look in the mirror. You've been taking a look in the mirror today, and your friends have been helping you take a look in the mirror. And some of your friends have been making your face look in the mirror really hard. Thank God for your strengths. Thank God for who you are. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are made in His image. You are a gift to the world. Thank God for your strengths. Thank God for His love. It's His love that made you the way you are. And have the courage to remove masks. Have the courage to remove masks. It does take courage because you might get rejected. Make a good confession. I've had some beautiful confession experiences from some really good priests. I've had some from some really bad priests that really wounded me. I remember one time I was very aware of, and again, this is before I was so saintly as I am today, but back in the day, I was very convicted and aware of my sexual sins, and I went to a priest, and he was a local guy at our parish, and I knew who he was, and he was kind of easygoing guy, phlegmatic, I knew that. And I confessed, and he yelled at me, shamed me, humiliated me, melancholy, and said, I didn't even know if I can forgive you, and I go, here's my caller. Father, if I'm truly sorry, you have to forgive me. And anyway, I was distressed. I went in there real vulnerable and really humble and weak and open and I got chewed up. And so I collected myself and I go, okay, Jesus, you're here. You've forgiven me. It's okay anyway. As soon as I walked out of the confessional, I burst into tears. And then I was like right outside the church, and I was leaning up here. I was just like, nobody saw me, right? Except my pastor came around the corner. He goes, Rose, what's wrong? I go, Father yelled at me. And I was like a little 5-year-old girl, he says, come with me, Rose. And I go, what? He goes, just come with me. And he took me into the cry room, right? He goes, now let's have a do-over. He put his stool on, he goes, how long has it been since your last confession? I went, 30 seconds? And then I laughed and he laughed, and of course snot came out of my nose because I was crying, and it went on him, and then we were laughing more, and he was sanguine, thank God. So it was a very healing experience from a bad confession to a really good and loving confession. I said, Father, you don't have to, but thank you, because I know I'm already forgiven. Because it's not about the priest, it's about Jesus. Another time, I had learned theology of the body and really knew that I had really violated myself as a woman. I had used men, I had been sexually promiscuous, and I had a lot of past sins I had not confessed. And I heard a good spiritual director say to make a general confession. How many of you have ever made a general confession? It's a long one, and you tell the priest ahead of time, I would like to make a general confession. And you focus on a specific area of your life, and you go in with the big bag of garbage. So I didn't know that I went to confession to this young priest at this event I was attending, and he was very kind. He was young. He'd only been a priest a year. I didn't know that. So we go into the room. We sit down. I'm like this in the chair. He's sitting right next to me, facing me, and our knees are almost touching. So I go into my humble position, and my hands are like this, and I go, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. And I started to think back when I became aware of myself as a woman, and I have to give sex to get love and all that other stuff that we do. And so I began listing all my sins, and as I'm reciting my sins, I am having images of men's hands on me inappropriately. And it was hard. It was a hard confession. And I'm telling you, women, because I feel very safe here with you. And I was like this, and I just went, it was all like 45 minutes, but I could feel the stress leaving, and it was, I was so thankful for Jesus' love. And I said at the end, and for all these sins and all the sins of my past life, I'm truly sorry. And with my eyes still closed, all of a sudden, after thinking of man's hands, I felt man's hands take my hands. And that young priest, that's not something a priest normally does, but he reached out, and I felt strong, holy, forgiving, powerful man's hands on mine. I can't tell you how beautiful of a gift that was and how healing it was. And I've stayed in touch with that priest over the years. I haven't seen him. And he invited me for the first time in over 20 years to come and give a retreat at his parish, and that's the one I missed last month because of the flight change. So pray that I get to see him again sometime.
Yes.
Confession, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. It's where our Lord will meet you exactly where you need to be met. He loves you so. He loves you so. Own your weaknesses. And hopefully today I've let you see what your weaknesses are, that they're tied with strengths. They don't come alone. There's a flip side to your weaknesses. So go ahead and own them. And bring them to confession. Bring them to our Lord. Confess your sins. Seek forgiveness. Not just from the Lord, but if you're moved, go to your kids and go, man, I learned how I was never really aware of your emotional needs, or to your husband, or to your friends. Please forgive me. I'm gonna make a renewed effort. Seek amends, ask for forgiveness, whatever you need to do. And forgive yourself. Remember what Jesus said from the cross? Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. I don't think he said, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. I'm sure he said it. Please forgive them, Father. They just don't know. They don't know. So let's prepare. For those, if you're going to go to confession or not, and I don't care, let's prepare you for confession based on the 4 temperaments. If you want to, go ahead and take screenshots. But make a list. Especially you sanguines and phlegmatics. Take the list with you to confession, even if it's on your phone. I take lists into confession all the time. I can't remember all the stuff I want to say once I get in there. It's like sometimes take the list. Father doesn't mind at all. Okay, sanguines. Seek forgiveness for the incessant need and self-focus of having to be noticed. It's not a huge sin, but it's a sin. It's an over-attachment to yourself. Seek forgiveness for being jealous of others and refusing to see trouble, laughing at jokes too quickly, laughing things off, and making light of things that should not have been made light of. We're guilty of manipulating. We're guilty of lying. We want people to love us and adore us and think we're adorable and cute, and so if we have to lie to do it, so be it. And again, I'm exaggerating, but that's our tendency. Sanguines can be really whiny. And seek forgiveness for self-pity. I manipulated big time in 2nd grade. I remember back in Catholic school, we didn't have cafeterias, we had to bring our lunch. And on Thursdays, we had hot dog day. Didn't anybody have that growing up? Maybe it was a California thing. So the moms would make hot dogs and they would make cupcakes, bring cupcakes. So we got milk and hot dogs and cupcakes. And of course, because we had all those kids and whatever, whenever I got my lunch, Mom had filled it out. She gets 1 hot dog and 1 cupcake, right? Well, I wanted 2 cupcakes. I never got 2 cupcakes. Wah, 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 right? But little Ralph, next to me, was an only child. And he was a little chubby. And he always got 2 cupcakes. So I looked over there one day, and I realized, even at 7 years old, I knew I was a girl and he was a boy. And he probably didn't need that 2nd cupcake, and I really wanted it. So I turned on the Sanguine charm. And I can still remember, I didn't really like him that much, but I pretended I really liked him. So I knew at that moment I was sinning. I was manipulating to get something that I wanted. We all do it. We all fall into it. We don't think about it. But sanguines manipulate. We all manipulate in different ways, but we sanguines manipulate with charm. So if you're guilty of manipulating people with charm, take it to confession. Let's look at the melancholies. Your sins are going to include being excessively critical. Now notice I said excessively. There is nothing wrong inherently with being critical. We need critics. We need people to criticize things, to look at things and see what's wrong so we can fix them. So it's excessive criticism. Feeling superior. Always having to correct. And notice I said always having to correct. It's my job to correct everybody and make them perfect. No, it's not. But we appreciate it when we need it. Being contemptuous. Withholding affection. wanting revenge. We haven't talked about this, but of the four, it's the melancholy big time. You saw it, smite my enemies. That means pulverize them into the dust. Indulging your moods. You know, overeating is just one way that we are gluttonous. Overeating is just one way that we're gluttonous. Overspending, oversleeping, overdrinking, overindulging our moods. Any excessive overindulgence is away from God and toward ourselves. Focusing on the negative. And notice I said focusing on the negative. It's okay to see the negative. Don't focus on it. Cholerics. Sometimes you are way too demanding. You have to stop yelling. It doesn't really work. It does make people physically move, but inside their hearts are set against you. Quit indulging your anger. Quit feeling superior. I was telling at the front table, I said, I get together sometimes with my phlegmatic girlfriends and it's real peaceful. When I get together with my other choleric friends, it's like, watch out. And we kind of feed off of each other. It's not good sometimes. Because we can all walk in a room and go, idiots. I mean, that's arrogant, isn't it? So it's not just the melancholies who can be arrogant. Cholerics can be very arrogant as well. Stop feeling superior. Sometimes you do not slow down for others. You ramrod over others. Crushing others' spirits. And you know when you're doing it at the time you're doing it. And having to always teach, always boss, always advise. Look at some of the sins of the phlegmatics. Excessive passivity. Never speaking up. Never getting involved. Staying in the shadows. Avoiding. Staying detached. Refusing to be led. That stubborn, quiet refusal to be led. Being lazy. Quietly disobeying. Procrastinating. Hiding. Cowardice. And the silent treatment. Don't worry, remember, there's a strength attached to all these weaknesses. So here's what you do with this. In your interior life, in your reflection, in your contemplation, and I hope you guys will make some quiet time when you get back in your normal lives to think about this and pray about it and go, why am I veering over to this end? Well, find the root. You and I get too attached to something we need and want. Affection, attention, peace, control, respect. And we think we need it, we deserve it, and we gotta get it. So in that over-attachment then, we now move into fear. What if I don't get it? What if they don't respect me? What if they don't laugh at my jokes? What if they don't? So now the fear goes, then I gotta be this way. And now we go into the weaknesses. We feel angry, we hurt, and then we start to control. And then we sin. That's okay. Again, you know what? It's a heavy topic. We need a nice little distraction. So find the root of your sin tendencies. It's always being over-attached to something good. Remember, your desires are good. Good. But where you go and how you go to get them filled, that's where we get in trouble. So let's talk about over-attachment, what the church calls inordinate attachment. What is the over-attachment for the sanguine? What do they gotta have?
Attention.
At all costs. Okay? There's the root of the sin. Over-attachment to something good. Peace at all costs. The phlegmatic, to avoid conflict and have peace at all costs, will run, hide, disappear. fear, procrastinate, they'll leave. If they can't leave physically, they'll leave emotionally. Loyalty, even if it kills you. I'm a choleric and I want loyalty from the troops, and I don't care if I wound them, hurt them, I deserve it. I need it. So it's a sense of entitlement and over-attachment. And again, understanding, not just understanding for the melancholy, but how great, how deep, how perfect, how beautiful, how intelligent the melancholy is. And hopefully today you guys have seen me attack all four equally and praise all four equally. I do not ever want to single anybody out as being worse than anybody else, because that's not true at all. So what's the remedy to over-attachment?
Humility.
Humility. Okay, if I want you to go on a diet and not eat chocolate donuts, I know you're going to be hungry and eat something. So I can't tell you not to eat. What am I going to tell you to do? Eat something different. That's good. I remember when I was about 9 years old and my little brother Fred was crawling along, he got Mom's car keys. And he was heading toward the floor grate, and Mom was afraid he would drop them and she couldn't get, she goes, Mom, she says, Rosie, go get the keys. I came home. So I went over to my little brother who couldn't walk, he was toddling, he had the ring of keys and he loved those keys. Rattling them, hanging on tight. So when I went to take them out of his hand, what did he do? He screamed.
Right.
And his little grip was even tighter. He was inordinately attached to that which gave him pleasure and purpose and enjoyment, right? And a sense of autonomy. And I was coming to take it away from him. So there's that sense of entitlement. All this deep psychological stuff, it's right there even when we're little, okay? This is nothing new. So I realized in my own brilliant little 9-year-old mind, I could not break his little hand to get the keys, but I was on a mission. How could I get him to let go? And I intuitively knew that if I distracted him with something else, he might let go. So I found the plastic play school keys that we had, pink and blue plastic. And I rattled him, Freddie, look at these keys. And I did the big song and dance and everything. And Freddie looked up, and those looked better. And so when he reached up for those, he let go of Mom's keys. So when we're hanging on, and we're overly attached to something good that we need, that God made us to need, and we're overly attached, what do we have to do to remedy that? Let go of the lower good for the higher good. Okay. The whole Christian life is summed up by St. John of the Cross, whose relic I brought here this weekend, who's been part of this retreat. Move away from things and move toward God. That's it. That's our whole Christian life. To move away from all the beautiful, true, and good human relationships, money, sex, food, purpose, all the beautiful things in life. To not be so inordinately attached and to be able to let go of those goods and those needs for something greater, and to really focus on Jesus. Get to know our Lord. Learn more about him. Immerse yourself more in him. How many of you know what this is from?
Chosen.
How many of you have watched The Chosen so far? What do you think about it?
It's awesome. Awesome.
How many have not seen The Chosen? Why? There's an app on your phone. So all you people who've seen The Chosen, help the other ones who have not seen The Chosen. It is really delightful. Although I do have another favorite movie, Jesus movie, that I will share with you. It's called The Gospel of John. It came out about 13, 14 years ago. Do you remember the series on TV called Lost?
Yeah.
This guy was in Lost. His name is Henry Ian Cusick, and he's the one that plays Jesus in this movie, The Gospel of John. The movie is word for word the Gospel of John. Nothing else. It's beautiful. And the narrator is Christopher Plummer.
Oh.
So it's just a top-rate production. The Gospel of John. That's my favorite movie, and sometimes I show it on weekend retreats. But I love The Chosen too. So what's the remedy for over-attachment, for all the emotional needs that we have as these 4 temperaments? It's Jesus Christ. To become more intimate with him and more, remember what I told you earlier? What did Christopher West tell me? To not love God so much, what?
And let him love you.
To let God love me. Just let God love you. In your prayer life, say, Lord, I don't even know what that means. But please let me feel your love. Let me know your love. Convince me of your love. Love me. Because we are wired to love in return. When we are loved, we don't have to try to love back. So part of the problem in our Christian life is trying to please the Lord, please the Lord, please the Lord, which is important. But sometimes we need just to stop and let him love us. And here's a beautiful quote from Padre Pio. Don't spend your energies on things that generate worry, anxiety, and anguish. Only one thing is necessary. Lift up your spirit and love God. Do you have trouble letting God love you? Does what other people have said in the past, or what others think of you, stand in the way and color the way you think maybe God sees you? Anyway, I keep you all in my prayers, and I know you will keep me in your prayers too, but we have such a loving God, and we forget that a lot of times. The next thing you can do is learn more about temperaments. I'm a certified Catholic life coach. And you can go to my website and make an appointment and have one-on-one coaching. And I will know pretty soon what temperament you are, and I will treat you accordingly. Anyway, all of us could use coaching. And the difference between counseling and coaching is this. Counseling tends to take a look at where you are now, and they go back into the past and see what happened, how did you get there, blah, 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 right? Coaching just says, we're not going to spend too much time on that part, but where are you now? Where would you like to be? Let's dream about that. And then now let's create a plan of exactly how to get you there. And this happened, over the last couple of years because of COVID. My live speaking events dried up overnight. And so I got more and more into coaching, and I love, love, love it. It is a beautiful one-on-one ministry. So if you are so called or think that I could be of help, please give me a call. And again, I offer personal retreats out in Southern California. I would love to see all of you again. Go to my website, rosesweet.com. And before we have our little closing thought, does anybody have anything they want to add? Any questions? Comments? Are you tired?
Thank you.
No, this is a lot of
This is
content.
awesome.
A lot of it, yeah.
We didn't have a normal lots of quiet time like you would on a real retreat. So thank you for sticking with everything. Please, anything you want to say? That is perfect. Thank you. Last thing I want you to remember. You are made in God's image, and you are beautiful. And as I do, He delights in you. You have gifts to give to the world. Now go out and give them to the world. I love you guys. I'll pray for you. God bless you.
Rose. That was awfully fun. It's so interesting to me to see, especially because it's something I love, to see how philosophy is starting to creep back into our religion after it held such a high place, I mean a hugely high place of prominence in centuries past. And so what Rose did, it was in many ways philosophical. We would call it anthropology, anthropological philosophy, but that's part of the Catholic tradition, which is amazing too because St. Thomas Aquinas never threw out anything that was true. It didn't matter who said it. If it was true, he would use it. And he took these ideas of the temperaments, which came from a pagan doctor, Hippocrates, who did not know Christ, and nonetheless used it, and it became part of our tradition, and we still have it today. And after all these thousands of years, we're still using it. So thanks. A lot of fun. Didn't realize that it was going to be so philosophical. I love to think, and philosophy means love of thinking. That's what it means. So.
Wait, you mean you're sensitive and you love to think deeply? What does that mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Big time.
But I also don't like to fight. I don't like conflicts because I always feel guilty. That's why. You know, I can do it, but man, I never feel right after. So I think that's important. Okay, so confession. So we'll have confession in the confessional, and then we'll also set up that makeshift confessional that we have. I think we'll put it in the rehearsal room where the choir used to rehearse. I think that's empty. I mean, open. It's not empty, but it's open.
Oh, the old choir practice room.
Old choir practice
Okay.
room. Yeah. So those are the two places that we'll have confession because we only have two priests. And that's good because that'll allow you to be able to pray in church in between confession and mass and so on and so forth.
Any other
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Evaluation.
The,
evaluations?
yes, exactly.